Hello, people! Two in one day, it is your lucky day. Breaking news. Let's go to the BBC for the truth.
The frontrunner in the contest to succeed Theresa May as Prime Minister, the former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, has been told by a judge that he will face a court case over accusations of misconduct in public office. The case centres on claims that he lied during the Brexit referendum campaign about the amount of money the UK paid to the EU. Let's get more on this with our news correspondent Andy Moore, who's following this for us. And Andy, this stems from a crowd-funded campaign.
That's right, crowd-funded to the tune of about £200,000.
What? £200,000? Now, anyone who's watched my Count Dankula video would understand that I am extremely worried about people creating crowdfunding legal actions in order for them to bring a case to court for the sake, I don't know what the sake of the motivation is in this case, but in general, I mean, in the case of Count Dankula, he crowdfunded a load of money to get himself the best lawyer in town, and lo and behold, he still gets shafted. Well, I predicted that, and I'm not going to say I told you so, but hey, it's not nice being a smart-ass. But anyway, here we have Boris Johnson, a similar kind of thing. I don't know what this guy's motivation is. I'll take you to the, this thing. So this is the case. Marcus Ball. Here we are, Marcus Ball, the applicant. Okay, so he's applying or attaching himself to the Court of Westminster Magistrates. And he's laid in information in the what's quoted as the proper manner. And now he's managed to get a case brought to the magistrates to be heard. Now, crowdfunding is an issue, so there's 200 grand's worth of money that's been raised in order to pay a solicitor, barrister, etc., to bring this case on behalf of Marcus Ball against Alexander Boris Johnson. So, yeah, very, very interesting. So Boris Johnson, for those who don't know, is like trying to become the next leader of what would be in America. Would it be the Democrats or the Republican? I suppose it's a Conservative, but I think the Conservative Party in England is really a Democrat party in America, and the Labour Party in England is really a Democrat party in America. So we don't really have a right of politics in England at the moment, or the UK, let's say. So that's why people like Nigel Farage offering a middle right option, and if you want to go a little bit more to the right, you'd probably go for UKIP. But that's why these parties are rising in popularity, because Conservatives are just, I don't know, they're a bunch of fairies. I don't know where these people come from, you know, probably Eton or some other public school system, and they have a very interesting view on the world. I'd very much look at the socialists of the early 20th century. A lot of these Marxist, socialist, intellectual, well-off, middle-class types are talking about socialism in their context. And I think pretty much that's what's dominated the UK political realms for the past 100 years. Just to keep the commies, the labour rights, or the grassroots people in check. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So back on track with this. So some guy called Marcus Ball is bringing a case versus a potential leader of the Conservative Party now that Theresa May's finally kicked the bucket in terms of her political career, obviously. And this is interesting because first of all I was like, okay, is this a private prosecution? Is this someone has genuinely gone to a magistrate's court and managed to raise issues in front of a magistrate and say, I believe, you know, I wish to lay an indictment against someone or other. So I was quite hopeful that maybe this is someone who's off their own back found something specifically damaging or criminal in this sense and decided to bring it to the court in order to raise it as an issue with the judiciary, essentially. And that would obviously bring it, if it's an indictment, it would bring it before the Crown Court, and the Crown Court would bring in the jury, and the jury would have to see the merits of the case. So I was really quite hopeful that this was going to be a good example of someone breaking down the system and learning how to access the courtroom in a way that didn't require legal assistance for a solicitor. Now there are some schools of thought about this whole criminal law being like this. It's more of a law of like it is government versus citizen, and to a certain extent it's citizen versus state or government, and citizen versus citizen versus citizen, citizen versus state, and state versus citizen. But obviously the state wouldn't really go against state. So it's a way of the government to interact with its citizenry. So it's not necessarily in that respect criminal law has been around since government, basically, but it's not normally used by people or citizens against, particularly like other citizens in terms of criminal matters. It is very rare, and it is something that can be done. As there was a quote by a certain judge, which I can't recall, but there was a judge who says, the only way that if there's inertia within the police force or the Crown Prosecution Service, or within society as a general, then a citizen, an individual can bring through this criminal court system, they may bring a private prosecution. That's pretty much what, paraphrasing what the judge says, but that's your solution to inertia, i.e. sitting on your arse and doing nothing. If people are sitting on their arse and doing nothing in terms of your grievances, then a private prosecution may be your only answer to get the justice that you believe you deserve as of right. So that's basically what I was kind of hoping for, but it turns out, since watching that BBC documentary, that it isn't like that at all. So we have Marcus Ball has gone to the crowdfunding, and he's managed to raise a sum of money to chuck at a solicitor to say, bring this case on Marcus Ball's behalf. Don't forget. So he's crowdfunded the legal costs, but he sure as hell hasn't crowdfunded the compensation he's going to have to pay when this thing blows up in his face, and therefore he's managed to have this case brought on his behalf to have Boris Johnson dragged before a magistrate to answer a very peculiar charge. Now, I've gone through all of this, and I'll paraphrase or abbreviate it somewhat, but essentially the judge, who's been described as quite a junior judge, which I don't believe is particularly right. I think a judge has seen that there is a case to answer. All right, in the pure sense of the word, it's not the judge's decision to say you can't have a case. If, like he says, if the information has been properly laid and the crime is known to them, i.e. it's defined in some sort of, I presume here in a statute book, I'm not entirely sure how it works for these guys, but as long as the crime is known to court and it's been presented in the proper manner, then they are obliged to send out a warrant or a summons. So obviously in this case, they're not going to go kicking down Boris Johnson's door. They've issued out a summons. Say, look, apparently there's an issue being raised here. We're asking you politely with this summons, come on in and discuss it and defend yourself if it needs defending. So that's basically what the judge has said, and he says, that's my responsibility. It's been properly laid. I'm going to do it. And he goes on to all kind of he really overly kind of justifies why he's doing it in a wishy-washy procedure, like in a procedural way, not kind of like in a thinking what you're actually doing kind of way, is what my snap review of the judge's decision. But I agree, if someone comes to you as a public servant, a judge sitting on a chair, it's not your position to doubt that person's word, which is why in America, they have there was that grand jury indictments, like 99% of them are always granted, and that's quite true, because in the system, if you're bringing a case before the judges, you should know the risks of bringing a case against someone if it's not a watertight case, or if it's frivolous, or it turns out to be frivolous, even though you managed to get it past the front door in that respect. So, in that respect, the judge, it's your wishes to bring the case. The judge is just granting you your wishes, all right? That's an important thing to know. The judge is granting you your wishes to bring someone before court. And, that goes in here about how they had a closed hearing, then they had an open hearing. The judge is very much interested in open access to justice. He's not putting any reporting restrictions on this. It's not being dealt with private. It's all going to be in the public air. All the results and everything that's going on, it's going to be done in public. And that's essentially the gist of it. Then it goes on about the charge itself is, I think it's 3 counts of it's like malfeasance. It's public office, being negligent or incompetent in a public office. And what they're basically saying, if I can get a picture of it, it might even be here. Boris Johnson was out and about. Here he is. He had this bus. All right, let's see if we can get a good picture of it. But essentially, on the side of this bus, there was a we send. He's holding a Cornish pasty, but in his campaign, he had on his bus we're going to say free. No, we send the European Union 350 million a week. And what they're saying is that Boris Johnson said that we spend 10 million, we send 10 million pounds to the European Union. Yet on the side of his bus, he's put 350 million a week, and they've done 350 million a week times 52. I haven't done the maths myself, but they're saying that's 20 billion, not 10 billion. So I think it's something like that. So it's literally a mathematic. They're taking Boris Johnson to court for a mathematical miscalculation in public office and trying to get it done as malfeasance. When I started to realise this, I knew immediately this is going to blow up in whatever this guy's face. Marcus Bull. It's a complete and utter nonsense of a case. Because the problem is like even though he's got the facts wrong, let's say absolutely the facts are wrong, he's misled, all he has to do is say, look, I believed at the time that was a correct figure. I believed at the time this was accurate information. I believed at the time such and such and such and such. And then he has to say, thank you for bringing to my attention that this is not correct. I now, now he's essentially changing his belief, which everyone has the right to do, and I will obviously go out of my way to correct the wrong that I did. Now, to say that this is some sort of deliberate malfeasance in public office is so tricky to stick down on him, and in some ways, I'm glad that this will go before 12 people of the public. Now, did if you go to the black and white of it, did Boris Johnson say that 350 million a week, as it says here, is going to be saved? Even though the actual figure should have been 20 billion and not 10 billion. And the judge jury said, yeah, but what? So what? It was a sum of money is going to be sent to European, okay, the exact numbers, the exact mathematics. Are you saying you're criminalising bad maths and Boris Johnson's going to be somehow taken down because of it? And then, if it is more heinous than that and is some sort of intention to deceive the public, good luck proving his intention to prove it. Good luck to it's either a miscalculation or it's a deliberate defrauding the nation. And I'm telling you, if you're a deliberate defrauding the nation, you sure as hell don't go and stick it on the side of a bus. You don't stick it. Let's take back control. We send the European Union 350 million a week. So yeah, I mean, good luck with this case. But I'm thinking it from a legal, like if I'm a cynical guy looking at the legal society and I see some idiot, and I hate to say it, Marcus Bull is acting a bit like an idiot, and I'm going to raise 200,000 to crowdfund a legal action. Then I can see from a legal solicitor's point of view and think, well, he's raised the money. We wouldn't want that money to go to waste now, would we, people? No, we wouldn't want that money to go to waste. So what we're going to do, we're going to obviously grant his request. We're going to bring it into court. We're all going to get paid. It's going to get thrown out. He's going to get no conviction. The legal society all get paid for their time, and probably Marcus Bull will get some sort of nice bill for bringing a false claim or an untrue claim or an unprovable claim against Alexander Boris Johnson. So that's my snap review. This is all a load of hot air. It's a nice bit of news for the BBC. It's a bit of a bother for Boris, but eventually it will all get thrown out. The legals will get paid. No conviction will stick against Boris, and he'll get on with whatever he needs to do. And my main worry is that in the case of this they may tighten up the laws on private prosecutions, especially when people idiotically crowdfund a case just to bring in front of a court that's based on someone's mathematical opinions, especially someone who's an MP, and there is a certain amount of impunity with what politicians can say and get away with. Obviously they have a duty not to mislead the public, but in terms of this is I've contacted the Treasury, and according to our stats we send this much money. Okay, I mean, who knows, that might have been wrong itself. All of those figures are wrong. I guarantee it's not exactly 350 million a week, is it? It's not exactly that. It's a ballpark figure. No one knows for sure. No one knows what truly is the cost of this European membership. Yeah, so basically that's it. So they've asked him to come in. Boris is going to have to come into magistrates' court for an indictable only offence. Now, it can't be tried at magistrates because this is a crime that has to go straight to Crown Court, which is another interesting thing. So a lot of indictable only offences, they go to magistrates' court literally just to see are you going to plead guilty or not guilty, because you can save the system a lot of money if you just plead guilty at the first occurrence. You get a discount for doing that. So that saves having to get the jury in. It saves having to get everyone there on the day and go through all the rigmaroles of doing it. So if you plead early at the first instance, say, yeah, fair cop, that's me, I'm a dirty crimo, crimbo, then obviously you get discounts. So that's literally why it goes, or has to be laid. The information has to be laid at a justice of the peace or magistrates court to start it off. But literally, the magistrates court in this instance will just literally palm it straight off to the Crown Court. The Crown Court will look at the merits of the case, get the jury. If it needs to, they'll have a hearing. They might even have a private hearing. They'll try and get what the hell's going on. Try and find the findings of facts and conclusions of law, which is actually a term expressed in this legal document provided by the judge, and then the jury. It's up to the jury then to decide if this is a pile of nonsense or is this actually something that needs punishing. And I really, I mean, I trust in the public to see that this is a waste of time. But you never know with juries. There might be something here that I'm not aware of. But the way that I'm looking at it, a crowdfunding scheme to try and get Boris Johnson put in the slammer. I'm not entirely sure. Well, I know this won't stick. That's my snap prediction. Won't stick. It'll all go away pretty soon. If it goes to trial, I trust that the juries will probably, unless there's, I can't see it as anything as a waste of time. Even the poor public's waste of time and money in that respect. But we'll see. At least there's 200 grand of legal fees that the Legal Society can hoover up and say thank you very much. Next crowdfunded case, please. So people, moral of the story is, don't donate your hard-earned cash to frivolous, borderline vexatious litigations unless it's someone who actually needs it, unless someone has actually been a victim of something like rape or something like that. Then save your money for your own charity at home.